My name is Sebastian Patel, editor at Trade Finance Global, and today we're here in London joined by Elena Sankova from Finastra. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Dipesh. It's very nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Not a problem. So here we are in London. If you could give a quick introduction, Elena. So who are you, where are you from, and what do you do?
So my name is Elena Sankova, and I am the head of European pre-sales for Finastra Transaction Banking. And I am also a global solution consultant, primarily focusing on trade and supply chain finance. Have been in the industry more than 20 years, so probably long enough to remember where it's not started, but where it was before, and how we have progressed to the stage where we are, but also still staying very optimistic and curious of what's coming next.
Yeah, thank you very much. So 2 decades of technological change and revolution or evolution in the trade and trade finance sector. I guess just honing in now on 2023, what have you seen in terms of some of those main trends emerging in the trade finance ecosystem since the start of the year?
Well, probably not since the start of the year, because the year has just started, but addressing this question, if we just acknowledge the fact that trade ecosystem is very broad. It's probably the most diverse across all of the banking products. So if we look at trade finance, it's not only, let's say, lending associated with it, but it actually starts earlier with the onboarding of the clients or of the whole communication around this process. Then it takes us to all the different checks related to regulatory checks, compliance checks, limit checks, everything that is connected to risk mitigations, assets distribution. And then sooner or later there are payments and also the whole processing of the information collected through the way. So it's really a huge transaction life cycle, and it keeps growing. So that if in the past years it was only just front to back processing, or maybe only back office processing of the trade finance transaction, but now it takes some other parts of the trade business, and what we see now is definitely some of the areas are growing, and it is proved by statistics, and probably everybody will agree that compliance keeps growing, but also everything related to compliance, let's say OCR and doc checking. If I look back 5 years ago, we had only one partner working in the area of digitizing paper documents. These days, we're talking to 6 or 7 partners. So definitely it's a sweet spot, and fintechs are going there, and it is growing. Again, what we see now is another hot topic in the market that attracts a lot of talks and also budget. This is ESG. So this has been in the air for many, many years, but finally we now have some concrete scenarios in place. And as a software provider, we can now bring those scenarios into our systems and provide solutions to the market. So definitely this is one of the areas that will grow, and I'm sure we will see great attraction, and definitely fintechs and service providers will enter this world.
Thanks, Elena. I like how you picture it as this transaction life cycle that brings together the payments ecosystem, the invoices, the trade cycle, foreign exchange, etc., etc. It's all kind of connected. I think the most important issue at the top of the agenda is really that compliance and regulatory piece, and documentary checking, KYC, etc. remains important, as well as the ESG sustainability aspects, especially with this move towards reaching scope 3 emissions and tracking. I guess the elephant in the room is some of the pretty major collapses, mergers and acquisitions that have happened within the ecosystem in the past 12 to 24 months or so.
Yeah.
I'm talking WeTrade, TradeLens, Comgo and GTC, TradeSend and Coriolis. Can you talk through what you're seeing from an ecosystem perspective and why you think a lot of these changes have happened over the past couple of years.
It is interesting that it has happened just recently, isn't it? So those changes actually, I think they make those people who have always been skeptical about innovation in trade finance be a bit more cautious and careful probably. However, for me, I think that it only proves that the ecosystem is a live mechanism. And we can't consider it as a single string chain that is as strong as its weakest link. No, it isn't. On the contrary, it is diverse and it's multidimensional. And ecosystem will not only grow and expand, but it will also adopt and it will change. And for us, it's not only about the technical landscape or the different technology that has been brought into the whole picture, into the whole infrastructure, but it is also collaboration. It is collaboration, and it is for us to find the best way for all the parties involved in the process to find the best way to interact and to operate. And that's probably exactly what all the recent changes tell us, that it will change. Probably we are not yet at the stage when the ecosystem will be able to regulate itself, but we are definitely going there.
Well, it's interesting. I'm always skeptical about the term collaboration, because surely a company the size of Finastra, you know, your objectives might be to hold and own the entire end-to-end ecosystem. So I guess the question to you is why would you want to partner, to collaborate, versus building all the on-prem or off-prem solutions as Finastra?
Well, to answer this question, again, if we just step back and look at the broader picture, I think for many years innovation has been taken as a luxury, but I think it is now changing, and what we see in the market is banks have not been considered as innovators on their own, and there has to be a strong push for them to do it, for them to actually allocate budget for some changes. And that push has to come either from the regulator, or there has to be a strong demand from their customers. So with that in mind, I think we'll understand that corporates have become a bigger players in the ecosystem, and those are the players that actually have their own rules. They don't like to be loyal, they want to be able to quickly change providers, and the whole ecosystem has to reflect it. So the ecosystem has to be agile, it has to be dynamic, and also it should be less dependent, if actually independent at all, for any of those components. For just one single vendor to cater for all the different domains that I have identified in the ecosystem, it's almost impossible. It's just far too much for us, and that's why it's easier for us to build partnerships, to create relationships with other fintechs, to actually cater for the whole transaction cycles, no matter where it starts, go into the very end of the transaction processing.
Great.
And collaboration, it's not only about building the infrastructure, but it is finding new partnerships and new ways of building relationships.
Thank you very much. And I guess, can you give any examples of how Finastra actually fits into this very diverse trade finance ecosystem? I guess I often think of it as a bit like an orchestra with the multiple components. Where does Finastra fit in?
Well, thank you very much for bringing this word. And exactly, well, Finastra has been in the market, in the trade finance market, more than 30 years. And it all started with just the back office system trade innovation that since then has grown into a big trade engine. So on the way, we have also enhanced it with the front end, with the portal, Fusion Corporate Channels, and thus we provided complete front-to-back processing for trade finance operations. But then a few years ago we realized that it was no longer enough. So as the demand is growing, the business case is expanding, the boundaries are moving farther, and there are new segments and new domains in the area that we would want to address. And thus we opened our solutions and we made them available for integration with other vendors, but we also provided a platform that is actually a host, that is a home for the ecosystem. And that platform allows fintechs and service providers to enter into our landscape and to bring their added value services, to seamlessly incorporate them into the trade finance transactions, and to allow them access to our own client base and also to all other players that are available in the market. So this platform is fusionfabric.cloud. It is available across all Finastra solutions, not only in trade finance, but you know that Finastra is, our scope is much bigger. And this is probably also another advantage that we take from the market, actually being able to see across different domains and different segments and bringing benefits to a certain space. It is also about collaboration. So we've been doing the integration between different systems for many years. We know how to do it. But ecosystem is also about building a new business process and also looking at commercial and legal aspect of it. And probably those questions are even more challenging than just having a normal IT infrastructure. So we've been on this journey for quite a long time, just moving from a software vendor to solution provider, and now being an orchestrator for trade ecosystem. Exciting journey, and I just look forward to what's coming next.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. The market is changing pretty rapidly, and there are also some huge advantages from a legal perspective that are allowing, for example, the acceptance of digital negotiable instruments and transferable records, etc. We've also seen consolidation within the market, and also the ecosystem growing to cater for other needs. And I guess given your remit, which goes beyond trade finance, my final question is what's next when it comes to future development? Where is the industry headed? And you know, you're pushing the boundaries. What do you think are the next pockets of excitement and innovation for the industry?
Well, definitely, and again, this will take us to the point of collaboration. We are expanding, we will see new segments and definitely new fintechs which will come into the market. So we will see the growth of the number of the players available. However, this will also not threaten, but probably challenge existing relationships that would need to prove that they are sustainable, which means that the service providers would also need to increase the level of the services they provide and to be able to strengthen their relationship, to prove their partnership with existing counterparts. So we can only expect that for the ecosystem to be resilient and sustainable, first of all, we do need to open it, to make it accessible for all the players, big and small. Again, for many years, innovation and digitalization has been an area that was considered only for the large fintechs, for the big fintechs, for the large banks. Whereas these days, indeed, we're seeing the democratization of the industry when those services become available for the smaller companies, and keeping the ecosystem sustainable and providing access to everybody, but also making sure that all of the elements in the system are quite dynamic. So it is important for us at Finastra to stay vendor agnostic, meaning that no matter how many service providers we have in a certain domain, we will be able to work with all of them, depending on what the end customer would prefer. And having this agility and minimizing the dependence on each of those components is probably the most sustainable way for us to grow the ecosystem.
Elena, it's been such a pleasure having you on Trade Finance Talks TV. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been my pleasure.